Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple. The first Champions League finalists of 2021 were to be decided at the Etihad, as Pep City hosted Poch's PSG in the second leg. Coming in with a 2-1 away win, City held a distinct advantage. The second leg finished 2-0 to City thanks to Amara's double, meaning that City go through to their first Champions League final, 4-1 on aggregate. The XG indicated that it was a deserved win for City, though PSG were wasteful. But what tactics did both managers use? Let's take a look. Here's how both managers lined up, courtesy of our wonderful sponsor, the OneFootball app. As you know by now, our long-term sponsor OneFootball has the best football app around, giving you stats, match updates, transfer news and so much more, absolutely free through the link in the description below. Let's first look at what PSG did on the ball. Early on, PSG were well in the game and looked to play out from the back with a similar shape as the first leg. Both centre-backs would split wide to receive the ball, and this would draw De Bruyne and Bernardo, leaving Florenzi and Diallo free as the fullbacks. Today, this build-up shape was less successful though. One of the reasons is that in the first leg, Mbappe started as the centre-forward, and in this phase moved in between the centre-back and left-back, and the threat of his pace meant that both the fullback and centre-back would stay deeper as they were wary of the ball over the top, which constantly allowed Di Maria to drop in between the lines and receive. Icardi, on the other hand, is much less comfortable out wide and much slower. So when he moved wide and Di Maria dropped between the lines, Zinchenko was much happier to follow him deep to cut off this route, making it more difficult for PSG to play through. But higher up, PSG had more successes. Almost all the width for the Parisians was provided by the fullbacks in Florenzi and Diallo, while City continued to defend in a 4-4-2. And for most of the match, City were excellent pressing in this shape due to the outstanding work rate of De Bruyne and Bernardo in particular, who would constantly press a centre-back whilst the other covered the pass into midfield, making progression past the first line difficult at times and slowing down PSG. And the PSG build-up shape meant that both fullbacks were so high that the outlet pass into the fullbacks was more difficult. However, PSG did have success playing through the centre. City's 4-4-2 meant that Gundogan and Fernandinho were often the sole midfielders, and PSG's shape, with the fullbacks giving all the width, meant that they constantly overloaded City centrally, with Neymar and Di Maria drifting central, which allowed Verratti to drop deeper. If the City front two didn't stop the pass into the midfield, Verratti or Paredes could receive, draw a man, and then look to play in someone between the lines. But generally, Verratti and Paredes were the key, playing as the deep pivots, which would draw Fernandinho and Gundogan high, whilst Herrera pushed up between the lines. This is because these two are much better under pressure than Herrera. This meant that there were often massive gaps between the lines that these three could look to exploit, and time and again they did receive it in the space and run at the back four, but couldn't make the difference due to the excellence of City's back four. Pep also adapted well, however, using Foden and Mahrez extremely narrow in the defensive phase and allowing the ball into the fullback before a City winger would then drop to cover. This meant that City had more numbers in the centre to cut off the passing lanes. City were also comfortable allowing the pass into the fullback, as neither is great at beating their man 1 versus 1, meaning that City would be confident of recovering defensively. But what did City do in possession? They looked to start short with both centre-backs dropping deep and the full-backs providing the width. From goal kicks, PSG pressed with an extremely narrow front three with Neymar and Di Maria pushing narrow. But City could break this in a few different ways. Edison could find the fullback directly, as the PSG fullback couldn't push high up to press as they were tied up by the City wingers. Once the PSG wide man then looked to cover, the ball back to the centre back would now be on, who would now be free to play out. Edison could also find a centre-back initially, and PSG's wide presser would have a problem, as if he covered the central route, an easy outlet ball into the fullback was on. It should also be noted that in these phases, City's false nines dropped deeper, tying up Verratti and Paredes. So if the wide presser cut off the route into the fullback instead, Gundogan or Fernandinho could receive and turn in space. But higher up the pitch, Zinchenko was the key at left back. PSG could maintain the same pressing shape, but we often saw them press with a staggered 4-4-2 instead, with the left winger dropping deeper whilst Di Maria joined the forward to apply pressure. This is because Ander Herrera, the right central midfielder of the three, is the most mobile and defensively disciplined, so he could hypothetically fill in midfield and then shuttle out to press Zinchenko when the ball came to him. However, the fact that the front two weren't as intense in the press as City's front two, for example, gave City's centre-backs to play out, whilst Foden and De Bruyne dropping deeper could make it difficult for Herrera to shift across in time, meaning that Zinchenko got ages on the ball time and again. In fact, he attempted the most passes for City and had the most touches for them. And all of this plays into the City goal. Edison is on the ball with his centre-backs deep, and PSG have gone with a narrow front three press. This time, the PSG midfield shape has changed to a 2 and a 1 as they are looking to cut off the easy pass into a City pivot. So Herrera has to come more narrow and can't cover for Di Maria, who is higher up. Bernardo, in the Foden position, drags Florenzi narrow, freeing up Zinchenko to receive the ball over the top. His cross and the subsequent follow-up from Mahrez on the De Bruyne shot leads to the opener. Overall, PSG were wasteful across both legs, meaning that City managed to progress despite having some shaky moments. But what did you make of this match and both ties? What did you make of Poch and Pep's tactics? Drop it down in the comments below. A quick shout out to my Patreons for helping to make this video possible. If you want to support, head on over to patreon.com/footballmadesimple and you'll get rewards like early access to videos and exclusive content. And a big thanks to Vance Brown and Dave Lukeski for their support on the Patreon Ultra tier. But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.